Hello and welcome to Rising. It's Wednesday, although I wondered if it was a Saturday as I was driving in because there was no traffic. Do you ever doubt yourself? I'm like, why is no one else going to work today? What am I missing? What is happening, Briahna?
Well, I think it's just one of those everything's coming up roses sorts of days. I got to bed on time. I woke up early. We just did a great interview with Jeffrey Sachs, and I'm very much looking forward to getting to the news with you today.
And you brought in cake.
I did.
For the office.
I brought in cake.
So we're all very charmed by Briahna this morning. Well, we've got big news to report. That's coming up tonight. Take it away, Briahna.
Well, of course, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is set to announce his 2024 bid for president with the help of Elon Musk. The tech billionaire has confirmed he'll conduct a non-scripted interview with DeSantis on Twitter Spaces this evening. NBC News reports that DeSantis will make the announcement in the Twitter Space with an official campaign video expected to post shortly after. DeSantis' choice to kick off his campaign on Twitter has underscored cable news' diminishing role in national politics. According to data in a new Washington Post analysis titled "The Looming Existential Crisis for Cable News," as recently as 2016, just over 70% of all households with a TV had cable or satellite TV subscriptions. Today, the figure is just under 40%. And it's dropping fast.
Critics of Elon Musk over the Atlantic say he's turned Twitter into a, quote, right-wing alt-tech platform that has much in common with the likes of Truth Social and Rumble, notion which Glenn Greenwald hit back at, writing, quote, anything and anyone these people can't control and censor gets called right-wing or a Russian agent. They're dealing with their collapsed relevance and the contempt the public has for them quite poorly by lashing out like shrieking hysterics as their ship sinks. Glenn, why can't he ever just tell us what he really thinks? He just pulls all his punches. So this is big news tonight. Yeah. Ron DeSantis is getting in the race. So that's big news anyway. We have been waiting for finally the showdown to get underway. I am on the record as saying that the next Republican nominee will be either Trump or DeSantis. There's really not a huge amount of reason to pay attention to anyone else except for the, Tim Scott could be the vice president, maybe Nikki Haley, I think probably not, that kind of thing. But the main contenders are Trump and DeSantis. So obviously we're going to be talking about that. And now DeSantis might have to fire back at Trump the way Trump is always, trying to undermine him in every other thing he writes on Truth Social.
And he has a much bigger platform on Twitter than Donald Trump has over on Truth Social.
Yes. So now this is the interesting wrinkle. He's making the announcement in this Twitter Spaces interview with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a big DeSantis backer. Elon Musk has previously stated that he would support a Republican like DeSantis, or DeSantis specifically himself. He would not support Trump. He supports DeSantis. There's no love lost between Trump and Elon. Trump doesn't like Elon. Elon doesn't like Trump. So Elon is in DeSantis' corner, and this is how the campaign is kicking off. Now, I think there's probably... It's interesting. I've seen a criticism that I don't think is entirely wrong. Like DeSantis' very online conservative supporters are very active on Twitter, and this is a move that kind of plays to them, rewards them. Is it the right place to launch a campaign? And does he really want to share the stage with Elon Musk? Like Elon is I think a bigger, right now you would argue a bigger conservative figure. He's become a conservative figure than DeSantis is. So maybe he's hoping to osmosis some of that celebrity quality?
Sure. But there are also some liabilities that come with attaching yourself to any person, but particularly one who's been such a high-profile tweeter who has involved himself in so many controversies. We spoke a little bit yesterday about him weighing in on, is the Texas shooter really a Nazi? He's weighed on any number of very spicy controversies that probably any politician, particularly one in a high-profile race for the presidency, probably wouldn't be courting necessarily. DeSantis has his lane. He makes his criticisms in the kind of woke culture context. But I think there's a realization that one can get over their skis. What works in Florida might not work nationally. And what works on Twitter also might not fare so well on a broader national stage. It's also worth noting that, this is not the first Elon Twitter Spaces interview rodeo. There was a very high-profile interview about a month ago with the BBC journalist that was broadly criticized because of the journalist's inability to ask specific focused questions. But there was also an interesting opportunity where eventually Elon started taking some questions that were being raised by the audience. And one of those questions was about the Twitter files. And it was in Twitter Spaces that we first learned that he was basically going to step away from further reporting on the Twitter files because of his interpersonal dispute with Matt Taibbi, which was a significant revelation. So I definitely do think that announcing on Twitter is a boon for Twitter. It makes people more aware of Twitter features like Twitter Spaces, makes people who might ordinarily not have wanted to come over to the app, because remember, Twitter has a much smaller market share than other kinds of apps like Facebook. And it doesn't really hurt DeSantis in any way, generally speaking, in terms of the medium. Whether or not having a close association with Elon Musk will hurt DeSantis if Elon Musk gets himself into trouble is a different story.
Well, I think a close association with Elon Musk is going to help DeSantis tremendously, at least in the getting the Republican nomination. Maybe there are liabilities for the general, sure, but he's got to beat Trump for the nomination first. And Elon Musk is a very well-known figure, better known, I would argue, than DeSantis, very popular among conservatives, very, very influential, very wealthy, has all sorts of methods at his disposal to help the candidate. So if this, more so than the announcement itself being on Twitter, if this signals that Elon Musk is going to do everything in his power to help DeSantis get the nomination over Trump, I think that is a significant advantage for the candidate. I agree with you about the liabilities. I don't think that there's certainly people who are turned off by Elon for a general election, but we got to get to the general election. And I would certainly rather be in DeSantis' position than Trump's with respect to Elon.
Okay, I'm old enough to remember when Trump announced and everybody said it was low energy, it's not going to be the same this time around. I did a radar at that time saying people were writing Trump out early. I think I have been vindicated in that assessment given how strongly he's been performing in the polls since then. And I continue to believe in a world where we have Donald Trump with his the populist energy behind him, his ability to speak to working people, the fidelity that people have shown him over the years, that his core base has shown over the years. And Elon Musk, a man who was just on stage with another popular figure, comedian Dave Chappelle, got booed by Dave Chappelle's own audience because in person, without the veneer of Twitter and the pulpit that he's created for himself there, doesn't play so well with audiences, doesn't come off as a strong, bold, charismatic figure the way that Donald Trump, like him or not, definitely does. I think there are some similarities between both Ron DeSantis and Elon Musk's inability to kind of stand on their own in diverse public spaces, really hold the space and seem approachable to people. And I don't know that doubling down on that kind of energy is actually going to hold up once we're in the real world, offline, where people like Donald Trump are very strong.
I mean, we read poll numbers earlier this week that showed Elon, right, with a higher favorability rate than either of them. This is about winning the Republican primary, and I would certainly rather have Elon in my corner than not have him in my corner. Look, I agree with you. This is going to be a battle. Trump has a lot of advantages. He has a very, very loyal base that isn't going anywhere. He could very well still get the nomination. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be all-out war. But having Elon on his side is going to help. Yeah. Having the platform biased in his favor is going to help.
So that's an interesting kind of admission as well, because Elon, of course, bought Twitter saying he was going to make it an equal space for all. There's been some criticism of the Atlantic article that you referenced earlier for being hyperbolic in its take that now it's a right-wing cesspool or whatever. And I agree that it is hyperbolic in its take. But are we now admitting that Elon, instead of stripping Twitter away from the liberals and making it for everyone, has in fact recreated it in a more conservative image?
Twitter is a conservative media platform that will be a space for conservative news personalities and conservative content discussions. That is the reality. That's the way it is. Yeah. I tweeted this yesterday, and a lot of people, I think on both sides, getting really mad about that. Like, I'm not praising that. I'm not condemning that. I'm just acknowledging reality. We've now had a number of events pointing in that direction. Tucker is launching his show on Twitter. Mm-hmm. The Daily Wire said they're moving all of their podcast material to Twitter. Mm-hmm. Twitter is a conservative. Twitter's president, Twitter's owner, is going to be alongside potentially the next Republican presidential candidate, is going to be debuting him, part of the debut, and is committed to helping him get the nomination. Twitter is a conservative media organization.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If that's going to be the acknowledgement and the admission, then when people like the Atlantic article or Mehdi Hassan, who I believe was tweeting yesterday that, whatever you want to say about Jack, he didn't announce that he advocated for people to vote for one party or the other for president of the United States. He wasn't kind of outwardly, endorsing people, promoting a certain kind of ideology, talking about rigging the algorithm to put more conservative content in people's timelines. Those are all things that Elon Musk has done.
Yeah, Twitter used to have a faux neutrality. Now it is a conservative media organization owned by a conservative media.
Right. So there was a neutrality. Not
faux
neutrality. Wait a minute. Whatever you want to say about what the underlying kind of skew of the site was, Jack's behavior was infinitely more neutral in effect, in reality, than Elon Musk has been. So Elon Musk is allowed to make a right-wing platform, but let's not skip over the fact that he affirmatively misrepresented what his goals were when he bought the site, and I think got a lot of support, including from people like me, who thought it was a good idea to remove the algorithmic biases, et cetera, from Twitter. Instead of doing that, he has imposed different algorithmic biases on Twitter and has weighed in explicitly in a political way that I think a lot of folks who really did appreciate the idea of Twitter being an open free speech platform are skeptical about. And I think it's perfectly fair to ask the question of whether Twitter is actually being improved by an explicit finger on the scale, skewing it in any political direction, including a conservative one.
I don't think Elon's defenders would say he's not banning wholesale deplatforming contrary or liberal perspectives. Liberals are welcome to launch their show on Twitter.
But he literally has banned reporters that were reporting on issues that he didn't personally appreciate.
On him specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
He also there was some 1/6 liberal reporter whose politics I don't personally agree with, but that he also banned early on in the site. This is what he has done. Now, the Hunter Biden laptop ban was wrong. It was reversed pretty quickly, but it was wrong. We've talked about that at length on the site.
Well, the bans of some of the people reporting on his whereabouts, that thing was reversed too.
Yeah. It took a much longer time. And I think the banning people, when you've explicitly said you're going to be a First Amendment freedom platform, is a much deeper hypocrisy given that claims that Elon Musk has made about himself. So that being the case, I think people are perfectly fair. We can't sit here and say people are being melodramatic and hyperbolic, et cetera, when Elon Musk is admitting to creating a kind of site it's antithetical to the atmosphere that he wanted to create before. So whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing, it very much is a departure for Elon Musk. And we'll see how it plays out for both the futures of Twitter as a website and for some of the political content that starts to be more prevalent here in the long term.
Whatever you think about it, whether it's ideal or not, it's interesting. A new conservative media organization is forming before our very eyes to outcompete the cable news conservative organizations. DeSantis is not making his announcement for president on Fox or what Fox perceives as its rivals, Newsmax, One America. He's doing it on Twitter because that is going to be the place for conservative content in the future. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. More Rising right after this.